Peter Lorimer died in 2021, and what they didn't tell you about his complicated life after football might shock you. While most remember him as Leeds United's legendary hotshot and thunderfoot, the man who became the club's all-time leading goalscorer with 238 goals from 750 appearances had a much darker side that emerged long after he hung up his boots. Born in Scotland, Lorimer made his Leeds debut at just 15 years and 289 days old, a record that still stands today. His thunderous right foot became the stuff of legend during Don Revie's golden era. The power in his strike was so ferocious that opponents, goalkeepers and spectators spoke of it with a mixture of awe and terror. Don Revie himself described it as a special skill that was uncoached and generated purely by his follow-through, leaving defenders with no chance to react. Teammates like Johnny Giles said he was the only player besides Bobby Charlton where you'd back a 40-yard shot to find the net. This wasn't just hyperbole. Lorimer's raw power provided a devastating counter-narrative to the dirty Leeds stereotype, while players like Billy Bremner and Norman Hunter were known for their tenacious tackling and physicality. Lorimer's identity was built on pure, unadulterated goal-scoring ability. His explosive shooting helped Leeds win 2 First Division titles in 1969 and 1974, the FA Cup in 1972, the League Cup in 1968, and 2 Intercities Fairs Cups in 1968 and 1971. Despite these victories, the team's history was also defined by heartbreaking near misses, including being runners-up in the league 5 times and losing 7 different cup finals. The most painful was the 1975 European Cup final against Bayern Munich. But here's where things get twisted. In his autobiography, Lorimer described his beloved manager Don Revie as a manoeuvrer, manipulator and planner like a mafia boss. This wasn't just a throwaway insult or simple condemnation. Lorimer painted a picture of a controlling leader who demanded absolute loyalty while using questionable methods to maintain power over his squad. The apparent contradiction becomes clear when examining Lorimer's other comments about Revie. He acknowledged that Revie fostered a powerful sense of community, stating that the team's ethos was built on loyalty and that we all fight for each other. Revie's man management extended beyond the pitch, building familial bonds by involving players' families and checking on them personally. The term mafia boss, therefore, wasn't an insult, but a precise description of a leader who built fierce, almost unshakable loyalty among his inner circle, while operating with a level of control and secrecy that outsiders found uncomfortable. Revie created what Lorimer called a family atmosphere, where players would genuinely sacrifice for one another. Yet this same manager used methods that even Lorimer found excessive. Revie posted spies in pubs to monitor his players and created detailed dossiers on opponents that sometimes bred too much respect for teams that were actually inferior to the dominant Leeds side. Lorimer found these dossiers useful for preparing against unknown foreign teams in Europe, but felt they could create a nervous environment when applied domestically. If you're finding this story as fascinating as we are, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more untold football stories that will change how you see the beautiful game. The Mafia Boss label wasn't condemnation, but recognition of a master tactician who built an us against the world mentality. This approach was pivotal to the team's success, but also contributed to their reputation for being dirty and cynical. Revie demanded absolute loyalty and fostered an environment where his players felt constantly under siege from external criticism. This loyalty remained intact even years later. When the film The Damned United depicted Revie's successor, Brian Clough, and his brief, ill-fated reign at Elland Road, Lorimer expressed genuine concern that the movie would vilify the former players. Clough had notoriously accused them of being dirty and cheating to achieve their success. Lorimer and his former teammates were keen to set the record straight, insisting that there was never any plot by the players to get him out, and that Clough's failure was simply because they couldn't give him the same level of commitment they had reserved for Revie. This public defence of his former teammates demonstrated that despite his critical appraisal, Lorimer's institutional loyalty had remained completely intact. Even more shocking was Lorimer's eventual falling out with his legendary teammate Billy Bremner. These two had been foundational figures in Revie's squad, with Bremner as the tenacious, red-haired midfield dynamo and Lorimer as the primary goal-scoring threat. Their shared history was best encapsulated by one of the most painful moments in the club's entire history. During the 1975 European Cup final against Bayern Munich, with the score locked at 0-0, Lorimer scored a powerful volley that was controversially disallowed due to an offside decision against Bremner. This incident, which saw Bremner pushed into an offside position just before the shot, became a symbol of shared injustice that still hurts fans today. The moment served as a powerful testament to their deep on-field connection. Yet their relationship fractured completely when their playing days at Leeds were coming to an end. The research reveals that Lorimer had already criticised Bremner for applying for the manager's job, believing it had the potential to divide the dressing room by pitting Bremner against another team legend, Johnny Giles. This pre-existing professional tension set the stage for their eventual schism. When Bremner finally took charge as Leeds manager in 1985, his actions were swift, decisive, and utterly ruthless. He had developed a clear vision of how he wanted to rebuild the team and immediately began to dismantle the young, delicate, and skilled team favoured by previous manager Eddie Gray. Bremner wanted to replace them with robust, hard-working players of his own choosing. He simply told Lorimer, "I want you out of the club," without providing any explanation or reasoning. This comment wasn't random personal spite, but the definitive, uncompromising culmination of a professional and philosophical split. For Bremner, removing a senior player who had previously been critical was necessary to assert his authority and build a new team free from the Revie era's shadow. However, the most damaging and divisive controversy came during Lorimer's post-playing career as a board director and public figure at Leeds United. In the wake of a crippling financial crisis that had left the club with massive debts and teetering on the brink of complete extinction, Ken Bates, a former Chelsea chairman, took control of the club in January 2005. Bates was already a deeply unpopular and controversial figure among Leeds fans due to his past rivalry with the club during his time at Chelsea and his well-established reputation for contentious financial dealings. The supporters viewed him with immediate suspicion and outright hostility. Lorimer's decision to remain as a director and publicly support Bates created the biggest backlash of his entire life. Writing in the Yorkshire Evening Post, he publicly backed the takeover, calling Bates the right man to lead the club forward. He attributed the club's near demise entirely to the previous chairman, Peter Ridsdale, who had gambled recklessly on ridiculously high wages, and spending that just wasn't sustainable. From Lorimer's institutional perspective, this support made complete logical sense. His role was to serve as the fans' representative on the board, and his position was one of pure practicality and survival. The club was in a terrible financial state, and Bates was perceived by him as the saviour who could stabilise the cash flow and prevent the club from being relegated to the third division. But the fan base saw the situation through a completely different lens. They viewed Bates as a symbol of the very corporate, opaque practices that had led the club to financial ruin in the first place. Supporters were deeply suspicious of his offshore ownership companies and his public dismissal of protesters as morons. They saw him as everything wrong with modern football, while Lorimer's loyalty was directed toward the institution of Leeds United as a functioning football club. The fans' loyalty was directed toward its soul, its identity, and its values. In their eyes, Lorimer wasn't just defending a man they despised, but was actively serving as a spokesman for a regime that seemed to operate completely against the club's traditional identity. His newspaper columns became lightning rods for fan frustration and anger. Here was their former hero, a man who had scored the goals that created their greatest memories, now defending the new, unpopular corporate ownership structure. This fundamental conflict represented a clash between institutional and emotional loyalty. The timeline of events tells the complete story. In January 2005, when Bates bought the club for £10 million with Leeds facing administration and possible extinction, Lorimer publicly backed him completely. When the Football League imposed a 15-point deduction in August 2007 for violating league rules, Lorimer remained optimistic about rebuilding while acknowledging that fans were entitled to anger. Between 2010 and 2012, when Bates bought the club again as sole owner and called protesting fans morons, Lorimer continued defending the administration through his columns. When Lorimer died in March 2021 at the age of 74, a cinematic tribute noted the tragic silence from the wider football world and questioned why a figure of his his stature didn't have a statue or receive more widespread recognition. This muted response wasn't random, but represented a direct consequence of the controversies that had followed his playing career. What do you think about Peter Lorimer's complicated legacy? Was his institutional loyalty admirable or misguided? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that reveal the complex truth behind football's biggest legends. The man who once terrorized goalkeepers across Europe with his thunderous right foot had become a lightning rod for institutional power struggles that alienated the very supporters who had celebrated his record-breaking 238 goals. His post-football life, spent as a director and newspaper columnist, placed him at the heart of conflicts that transformed him from universal hero to divisive figure. His legacy became a complex tapestry of on-field brilliance and off-field controversy, demonstrating how the same profound loyalty that made him a hero on the pitch ultimately made him a target for fan dissatisfaction away from it. The same unwavering dedication to Leeds United that had driven him to become their greatest ever goalscorer also led him to defend decisions and people that many supporters couldn't forgive. Ultimately, Lorimer's story serves as a powerful reminder that the same qualities that forged legends can also lead to their downfall. His unwavering dedication to Leeds United as an institution never wavered throughout his life, but the expression of that loyalty in his later years created divisions that overshadowed his remarkable playing achievements and complicated his place in football history forever. Ray Wilkins died in 2018 at just 61 years old, and how he lived was truly heartbreaking. The former England captain and Chelsea legend suffered a cardiac arrest that led to a fall, leaving him in an induced coma before passing away just a week later. But behind this tragic end was a life filled with incredible achievements that made him one of football's most beloved figures. Known by his nickname Butch, Wilkins was a footballing prodigy who made his Chelsea debut in October 1973 at just 17 years old. What made this even more remarkable was that he became Chelsea's youngest ever captain at age 18, leading the club during one of its most difficult periods. The timing of his breakthrough was particularly challenging as he joined a team that was being dismantled after a successful cup-winning era, with experienced players departing and leaving young talents to carry the burden. Despite the team's relegation in the 1974-75 season, his leadership and exceptional passing ability shone through as he helped guide a young Chelsea side back to the top flight just 2 years later. His performances during this difficult period were nothing short of inspiring, as he shouldered responsibility far beyond his years while maintaining the standards expected at Stamford Bridge. His talent was undeniable. Wilkins won back-to-back Chelsea Player of the Year awards in 1976 and 1977, showcasing his incredible range and accuracy of passing that created countless opportunities for his teammates. His vision on the pitch was extraordinary, able to pick out passes that others couldn't even see, making him the creative heartbeat of the team. Even while playing in the second division, his abilities were so impressive that he was called up to the England national team in 1976. This was almost unheard of at the time, proving just how special a player he was and how his talent transcended divisions. In 1979, Manchester United recognised his quality and signed him for a then-club record Chelsea fee of $825,000. At United, he was regarded as the team's on-field brain, orchestrating play with his intelligent passing and tactical awareness. His 5 seasons at Old Trafford established him as one of the most respected midfielders in English football. His career then took him across Europe to some of the most prestigious clubs, including AC Milan and Paris Saint-Germain, where he continued to showcase his exceptional abilities on the continental stage. If you're enjoying learning about Ray Wilkins' incredible journey, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss our football stories. But it was perhaps at Rangers in Scotland where Wilkins enjoyed some of his greatest success as a player. He won 2 Scottish Premier Division titles and a Scottish League Cup, proving his winning mentality at every level. His time in Scotland showed his adaptability and determination to succeed wherever football took him. Internationally, his achievements were equally impressive, earning 84 caps for England between 1976 and 1986. He had the honour of captaining his country on 10 occasions and represented England at major tournaments, including UEFA Euro 1980 and the FIFA World Cups in 1982 and 1986. These international appearances cemented his status as one of England's most reliable and respected players during a golden era for the national team. After hanging up his boots at the remarkable age of 40, Wilkins seamlessly transitioned into coaching. His playing career had lasted over 2 decades, a testament to his professionalism and dedication to maintaining peak physical condition. He took on management roles at Queen's Park Rangers and Fulham, where he began to develop his tactical knowledge and leadership skills from the sideline. He even managed the Jordan national team at the 2015 AFC Asian Cup, showing his willingness to take on challenges in different parts of the world and share his vast football knowledge. However, his most notable coaching achievements came during his 2 periods as assistant manager at Chelsea. His first stint was from 1999 to 2000, but it was his second period from September 2008 to November 2010 that truly showcased his coaching abilities. Working under managers Luis Felipe Scolari, Guus Hiddink and Carlo Ancelotti, Wilkins helped Chelsea achieve a Premier League and FA Cup double. His tactical knowledge and ability to connect with players made him an invaluable part of the coaching setup. Players and staff alike respected his input and valued his experience from his playing days. However, the pressure of elite football had taken its toll from early in his career. The immense responsibility of captaining Chelsea at just 18 years old during such a turbulent period for the club led him to take medication like Valium to cope with the burden. This was the beginning of a long battle with depression that would shadow much of his life. The weight of expectation and the need to perform at the highest level while dealing with the club's financial difficulties created an environment where a teenager felt overwhelmed and had to seek chemical help to manage. The unexpected nature of his sacking from Chelsea in November 2010 hit him particularly hard. He later described this period as his darkest time, saying it caused him to slip into a deep hole. This professional rejection, coming after such a successful period where he had helped the club win major trophies, triggered a deeper spiral into depression. The timing made it even more devastating, as he had given everything to help the club succeed, only to be dismissed without warning. The depression became linked with alcoholism in what he described as a vicious cycle. He was tragically honest about this connection, stating that the alcohol fueled depression and vice versa, with the 2 problems feeding off each other in a destructive pattern that became increasingly difficult to break. This led to 2 very public drink driving convictions that brought shame and legal consequences that affected both his personal and professional reputation. His first conviction came in 2013, when police found him slumped over his car's steering wheel, unable to stand up straight due to intoxication. This resulted in a 3-year driving ban and marked the beginning of his public struggles with alcohol becoming visible to the wider world. The second incident in July 2016 was even more serious, as he was caught driving while 3 times over the legal limit, with a member of the public witnessing him driving erratically and drinking from a bottle behind the wheel. This led to a 4-year driving ban and brought his problems into sharp focus. Following this second conviction, Wilkins made a brave public admission in court, stating that he was an alcoholic and that abstinence was the only way he could cure the situation. He recognised that his drinking had reached a point where it was endangering not only himself, but innocent members of the public. With the support of his family, particularly his wife Jackie, he sought help at the Sporting Chance Clinic, recognising the danger he posed to others and the pain he was causing his loved ones. Adding to his struggles was ulcerative colitis, a chronic bowel disease he had lived with since 1990. He only revealed this condition publicly in 2014 to counter persistent rumours that his sometimes unwell appearance in the dugout was due to drinking problems. During one severe bout of the illness, He was hospitalised for 12 days and lost 2.5 stone in weight. At one point, surgeons even considered removing his colon, though he was able to avoid this. In his final months, Wilkins had undergone a double heart bypass operation, showing that his health was already fragile. On March 28, 2018, he suffered the cardiac arrest that would ultimately lead to his death. The fall that followed caused a head injury, resulting in him being placed in an induced coma at St George's Hospital in Tooting, London. Despite all his personal struggles, Ray Wilkins was universally remembered as a gentleman of the game. Gary Lineker described him as a wonderful footballer and a delightful man, while others consistently called him a true gentleman and a bloody nice bloke. His personal battles never diminished his innate kindness or the respect he commanded from peers across the football world. Former teammates, opponents, and colleagues all shared similar stories of his warmth, humility, and genuine care for others. What made Wilkins truly special was his courage to be vulnerable. By speaking openly about his use of Valium, his battles with depression, and his public admission of alcoholism, he used his platform to foster important conversations about mental health in sport. His honesty helped destigmatize these issues within professional football and beyond, paving the way for other players to speak about their own struggles without fear of judgment or career damage. His willingness to discuss these deeply personal matters showed incredible bravery, especially considering the traditional culture of football where showing weakness was often seen as unacceptable. He understood that his status as a respected former player gave him a unique opportunity to help others facing similar challenges. His legacy extends far beyond trophies and titles. At his memorial service, held on May the 1st at St Luke's Church in Chelsea, his son delivered a speech that openly addressed his father's struggles, continuing the vital conversation that Wilkins had championed throughout his later years. This continuation of his message showed how his impact extended beyond his own lifetime and into the next generation. His wife Jackie was honoured as the guest at the FA Cup final between Chelsea and Manchester United, where she presented the trophy to the winning captain. This gesture beautifully connected his legacy to the sport he loved while acknowledging the woman who had stood by him through his darkest moments. Ray Wilkins showed that even at the pinnacle of success, people can face invisible battles with mental health and addiction. His life demonstrated that professional achievement and personal struggle can coexist, and that seeking help is a sign of strength rather than weakness. His story became a powerful example of public triumph and private resilience, proving that speaking out about these struggles can help others facing similar challenges feel less alone. The football community lost not just a talented player and coach, but a man who used his experiences to help others. His contributions to the conversation around mental health in sport continue to resonate today, making him a pioneer in breaking down barriers and encouraging openness about these critical issues. Make sure to subscribe for more incredible football stories that go beyond what you see on the pitch, and let us know in the comments which football legend you'd like us to cover next. Billy Bremner died at just 54 years old, and the truth about his controversial legacy might shock you. They called him 10 stone of barbed wire, and while Leeds United fans worship him as their greatest ever player, there's a darker side to his story that many prefer to forget. Bremner was born into hardship in Stirling's rough Ratblock district in 1942. His father worked in a newspaper shop, and life was tough from the start. Despite showing incredible talent from age 9, playing for his school's under-11 team, his dreams were nearly crushed before they began. Arsenal and Chelsea both rejected him during trials, dismissing him as too small at just 5 feet 5 inches. The rejections hurt deeply, but they also fueled something dangerous inside him. His father, frustrated by the sectarian divisions in Glasgow football, had forbidden him from joining Celtic. Rangers lost interest when they discovered he was Catholic. The message was clear: nobody wanted Billy Bremner. These early knockbacks didn't just motivate him, they twisted him into something darker. Every brutal tackle, every confrontation, every moment of aggression on the pitch became his way of proving he belonged. This rejection fuel turned him into one of football's most volatile characters. He wasn't just competing, he was waging war against everyone who had ever doubted him. The small boy from Stirling had developed a massive chip on his shoulder. At Leeds United, Bremner's aggression found the perfect outlet under Don Revie's management. They built a team that mixed skill with calculated brutality, earning the nickname Dirty Leeds. Bremner became the enforcer, accumulating 38 bookings between 1962 and 1974 alone. This wasn't competitive spirit, it was systematic intimidation designed to hurt opponents both physically and mentally. The statistics tell the story of a player whose temperament cost his team dearly. While Leeds won 6 major trophies under Bremner's captaincy, they also suffered 12 runners-up finishes between 1965 and 1975. Time after time, they fell short when it mattered most, often because Bremner's volatile nature infected the entire team. His aggressive approach worked during league campaigns where intimidation could wear down opponents over time, but it failed repeatedly in cup finals where composure was essential. Bremner played in 4 FA Cup finals but won only 1. He led the team to defeats in the 1973 European Cup Winners' Cup final and the controversial 1975 European Cup final. Each time, their aggressive mentality, driven by their captain's win-at-all-costs attitude, proved to be their downfall. If you're enjoying this deep dive into football's most controversial figures, make sure to subscribe for more untold stories that reveal the truth behind the legends. We're exposing the dark secrets that the football establishment wants to keep buried. The first major public controversy came in 1974 during the Charity Shield match against Liverpool. What should have been a celebration became a brawling mess that embarrassed English football. The match was described as shabby and marred by continuous fighting. On the hour mark, Bremner and Kevin Keegan exchanged punches in front of 90,000 spectators. Both players were sent off, becoming the first British footballers ever dismissed at Wembley Stadium. But Bremner's reaction revealed his true character. In a final act of defiance, both men ripped off their shirts and threw them to the ground as they walked off the pitch. It was a disgraceful display that summed up everything wrong with Bremner's approach to football. The Football Association charged both players with bringing the game into disrepute and handed them 11 match bans along with £500 fines. For Leeds, this meant starting the season without their captain, significantly hampering their campaign. Bremner's selfish actions had once again cost his team when they needed him most. But this public brawling was nothing compared to what happened during the 1974 World Cup. After Scotland's comfortable 2-0 victory over Zaire, Zairian forward Nadaye Mulamba made a shocking accusation that would haunt Bremner's legacy forever. Mulamba pointed directly at the Scottish captain and accused him of subjecting him to racial abuse during the match. The Zairian player also claimed that Bremner had spat at him and his teammate Mana Mamuwene. This wasn't just any allegation from a disgruntled opponent. Mulamba was playing for a team already suffering under incredible pressure from their dictator Mobutu Sese Seko back home, with players facing threats and unpaid bonuses. He had absolutely nothing to gain by making false accusations against one of the tournament's most high-profile captains. The context makes Mulamba's claims even more credible. Zaire's players were afraid for their lives and families back home. For Mulamba to risk making such a serious accusation against Bremner suggests something genuinely awful happened on that pitch. Yet this shocking incident has been largely swept under the carpet. With football football authorities preferring to ignore one of the most serious allegations ever made against a World Cup captain. Just a year later, Bremner's international career ended in complete disgrace with the Copenhagen 5 scandal. After Scotland's European Championship qualifying victory in Denmark, he joined 4 teammates for a night that descended into chaos. Reports describe absolute mayhem at Bonaparte's nightclub, with Bremner and his companions involved in confrontations with the DJ, smashing light bulbs, and fighting with bouncers. When nightclub staff couldn't control the situation, riot police were called. The disorder continued back at the team hotel, where the players allegedly trashed an official's room. The Scottish Football Association handed all 5 players lifetime bans from representing their country. While the ban was technically lifted in 1976, Bremner's international career was over, ended not by declining ability, but by his own inability to behave professionally. The Copenhagen incident revealed everything wrong with Bremner's character. His complete lack of self-control and willingness to drag his teammates down with him showed a man who had learned nothing from his previous controversies. The controversies didn't end with retirement. In 1977, the Sunday People newspaper published explosive allegations that Bremner had offered bribes to fix matches, specifically targeting a 1972 game against Wolverhampton Wanderers. The newspaper cited former players Danny Hegan and Frank Munro as sources for these match-fixing claims. For 5 years, Bremner endured constant fixer jibes from crowds. His wife and children suffered abuse from fans who believed the allegations. The case dragged through the courts until 1982, when Bremner finally won £100,000 in damages, one of the largest libel settlements in British legal history at the time. But winning the case couldn't erase the damage. The match-fixing claims had tainted Bremner's reputation and haunted his family throughout the legal battle. The fact that such allegations seemed credible to many people said everything about how his aggressive, rule-bending playing style had been perceived. When Bremner moved into management, his approach revealed the same flawed character. At Doncaster Rovers, he initially found success by building teams in his own image through hard work and determination. This yielded 2 promotions from the 4th Division, but it also showed his limitations as a modern coach. The real test came when Bremner returned to Leeds United as manager in October 1985. Instead of proving his football philosophy could work at the highest level, he made disastrous decisions. He sold promising young talent, including future Manchester United star Dennis Irwin, to fund purchases of older, more physical players who reminded him of his own teammates from the 1970s. Bremner was trying to recreate the aggressive formula of his playing career, but football had moved on. His outdated methods were exposed as inadequate. In the 1986-87 season, Leeds reached the FA Cup semi-final and the promotion playoff final, but lost the playoff final to Charlton Athletic in a replay. It was the same story that had plagued his playing career, falling short when it mattered most. By September 1988, Bremner was sacked from Leeds United. His relationship with the board had broken down completely. His second spell at Doncaster ended even worse, with the club at the bottom of the 4th Division when he resigned in November 1991. The man who had captained Leeds to multiple trophies couldn't translate his playing success into managerial brilliance. Don't miss our upcoming videos exploring more football legends whose dark secrets were hidden from the public. Subscribe now to uncover the truth behind the carefully constructed myths. Bremner's managerial failures proved that his success as a player had been built on intimidation and aggression rather than genuine football intelligence. When those weapons were no longer effective, he had nothing left to offer. On December 7th, 1997, Billy Bremner suffered a suspected heart attack and died just 2 days before his 55th birthday. His death was tragically premature, but perhaps it saved him from witnessing how completely football had moved beyond his confrontational approach. The sport had evolved into something that no longer needed his type of warrior mentality. Today, a bronze statue of Bremner stands outside Elland Road, depicting him in a triumphant pose with his personal motto, "Side before, self every time," etched on the base. Leeds United fans still consider him their greatest ever player, and he's been posthumously inducted into both the English and Scottish Football Halls of Fame. There are plans for a second statue in his hometown of Stirling, but these honours feel hollow when set against the controversies that truly defined his career. The racial abuse allegations from Ndaye Mulamba, the match-fixing scandal scandal that tormented his family, the violence at Wembley that disgraced English football, and the Copenhagen disgrace all paint a picture of a man whose legacy is far more complicated than his admirers want to admit. The football establishment's determination to celebrate Bremner, despite his obvious flaws, reveals how willing the sport has been to overlook serious misconduct. They prefer the romantic story of the small Scottish warrior rather than confronting the uncomfortable truth about a player whose behaviour repeatedly brought shame on the game. Billy Bremner was accurately described as 10 stone of barbed wire, and that description was more telling than anyone realised. Like barbed wire, he was designed to hurt and inflict damage on anyone who came too close. His death at 54 ended a life consumed by conflict and controversy from his earliest days to his final failures as a manager. While Leeds United fans continue to remember the trophies and passion, the darker truth reveals a footballer whose volatile temperament, alleged racist behaviour, and complete lack of self-control ultimately overshadowed any genuine talent he possessed. His legacy remains forever tainted by incidents that tell the real story of one of the game's most overrated and problematic figures.